Welcome to another interview with Israel Tech. I'm excited to have here today Slava Bronfman of Cybellum. Slava, how you doing? Thanks for having me.
Good, thank you. Thank you for coming here.
Yeah, so we're recording from your offices. You have lovely offices. We definitely chose the right day. It is a Sunday. And I think we should kind of start with, there's a lot of things going on, is that yesterday there was a big attack by Iran on Israel. Missiles, ICBMs, drone technology, etc. So you have a little bit of experience with this specifically, doing it in the Army. You worked a little bit on the Iron Dome. Let's get right into it, and let's just talk about kind of a little bit what happened and the technology that's involved, and maybe what Cybellum is doing, or your experience that you can speak to, so people can get a better idea of what missile defense and things like that look like. So maybe if you want to kind of, do you understand like how exactly does the technology that go into the defense that was able to shoot down most of these things shot at us?
Well, okay. Actually, I'm not an expert in that area. I worked a bit before the army in Rafael, which is I think biggest military enterprises in Israel. We're part of the Iron Dome project, especially specifically in the simulation part, how you simulate attacks and how you stop them. There, advanced technologies probably there, how it defends against those, missiles, drones, and so on.
How can cybersecurity actually play a defensive posture when it comes to, let's say, enemy attacks on soil, on the homeland?
Well, look, it depends, if obviously if there are cyber attacks, and we all know that, we saw recently all the physical attacks, but obviously there is a lot of, also cyber attacks, and to defend against those, it's the most trivial thing, or obviously there are big units in the Israeli army that are constantly, that's what they're doing, right? Trying to protect against those attacks. Now, also, a lot of those drones and other, things have the communication, how they communicate between them. We also saw that they obviously try to operate, or they are operating using the GPS. And also we noticed in Israel in the last week or so that all the GPS was kind of, changed, or, kind of stopped, or the GPS signal. So.
Was that a cyber attack on Israel?
I don't think so. I think, actually the other way around. It's the Israeli, Defense Force tried to change the GPS signal in Israel. So even if there are drones or missiles that are operating by a GPS, they will kind of get a signal that they're in some other place and won't be directed into the where they plan to be. So
yeah, I heard that the one day where even the Tel Aviv GPS was scrambled. I heard that that was an Iranian attack. I don't know if that's confirmed or not. I heard that through rumors to people I know.
Yeah, no, I think if you think about it, eventually it's all these missiles, or a lot of the missiles, that basically have two technologies. Probably one is they have cameras, so they know where to go, and someone is operating them. And the other one is that they're using GPS or some other location-based service. So I can assume that what's our defense force are doing are scrambling the GPS signal. So so basically these drones, missiles will just get the wrong location and be directed in other areas.
So let's go back to Rafael. What exactly did you work on? You did something that's interesting. Maybe we could talk about this program. I know other people have done it, where after high school you actually go and learn. Correct. The Army tells you to go learn, and intentionally, and then it's fascinating the working together of the military and education in the Army and in the private sector. A lot of things we'll be talking about today that we talk about on the show. Did you decide that? Did you apply to it? Tell the people about this program that you're able to go study first, on the condition that you use your studies within the military. Can you talk about that?
Yes, it's pretty common, program in Israel, that the army is also, paying for some of this, for you to go to the university, and then basically based on what you studied, you're going to do apply the same, during your military service. So yeah, very, again, very something that is very common in Israel.
How does one apply to this? Did you know you wanted to go and learn first and then go to the Army? Was it because someone else you knew? Were you recruited? How do you know more about it?
No, it's when you're in the 11th grade, I think the army is sending you some agenda, or you need to choose where want to go to during your your military service, and one of the option is to to go to study before. Obviously, it depends on your high school grades and so on, and then basically you choose. And if you're getting accepted to the university, so the army is is usually accepting that, and also there is a full program that you're going through.
So why did you choose that route?
Well, actually, I don't know. That's a tough question. I was like 17 years old and thought that a lot probably of pressure also from my parents that thought that going to study it's the most important thing. Maybe they
Do you agree
were
with
right.
that?
I don't know. For me, it worked out, right? It's probably, in retrospective, was a smart move.
Did you tell them they were right?
No.
I'm just want to make sure.
No, I don't do things like that. Back then, I also just started learning computers and thought, well, this is fun. This looks fun. So said, why not? Let's go study computer science before going to the army. And it also felt to me like, a natural more natural progress from high school directly to go studying and not to go to the army and then go studying.
So you needed good grades in order to be able to, or you implied that.
Yeah.
What kind of grades did you have to have?
Well, it depends, what do you want to apply, right? You can do, your degree in computer science, or, in physics, or you can even go to study medicine and be a doctor in the army. So it really depends on, on what exactly you want to study. I don't know, just good grades, to be probably in the top, 5-10%.
5-10%,
yeah,
something like that. Okay, so you're accepted in the program, you went to go study, but now, what school did you go to, right? Because it was Raphael was the school?
No, I studied at the Technion.
Right, okay.
So lived in Haifa, studied in the Technion for 4 years, computer science, information system engineering, actually the part of it. And as part of that, I also worked in Raphael as a student, in a student position, again, independent of the army or the studies, just went, to work. And yeah, that was it. It was very interesting. I spent almost 2 years in Raphael, worked on, multiple very interesting projects. One of them is actually the Iron Dome that we today all know, as I said, on the simulation part of the Iron Dome that was simulating, attacks and simulating actually how you're gonna, countershot this, the missiles. And it was fun, I was a student, so part of a huge project working on that. But back then it was, I don't know, like 2014, even before, the Iron Dome was operational, I think. So for all of us, it wasn't like, we still didn't understood, the magnitude of how big this project will be, and what going to be really, the implication of something that is, can be so meaningful to our lives here in Israel. Yeah, in retrospective, it's really cool to know that, been working on something that was, so meaningful. But,
right. Yeah. What do you think about a lot of people are saying, I've been saying also, that we've become almost too dependent on them. So like people don't understand how massive this attack was. The extent of damage this would have done, like crippling. Yeah,
well, that's true. But that's also true probably for many other technologies that we are dependent on today and can't even imagine our lives before that. Yeah, I guess that's true. We're just dependent today on that technology, and we allow ourselves probably in Israel to act in certain ways, or to, to be reluctant probably to some attacks or whatever, just because we have this technology and privilege, not privilege, but can enjoy or, act in certain ways just because we have it. So it is what it is. I don't think we need to feel, bad or just question our acts because we have it.
Awesome. So let's bring this over to kind of, you were doing Raphael, you're working on the Iron Dome. Can you talk about that for a little bit?
Probably not too much, just, the things that we all know about already.
I don't know anything. Tell me.
About the Iron Dome?
Yeah, what's the Iron Dome?
I'm sure you know a lot. Yeah, all of us already know.
Okay, I got the hint. Yeah, we'll move on. So from there, you went and where did you go from there?
To the army.
Yeah.
Yeah, I spent almost 6 years in the Israeli Defense Force. in intelligence units, changed between a few intelligence units, and been working most of the time around cybersecurity projects.
Did you know you were going to be doing that when you went to go study?
Yeah.
You knew, I'm going to go study, then to go use this in
No.
the Army. No one thought you'd be working on
No.
cybersecurity related things.
No one knows that. No one knows. I actually.
At what point was it while you're did they like, okay, when Slava joins the Army, we're going to use him for cyber?
Well, I don't know. There is probably in the Army kind of a draft system that they decide only when you get back to the Army where you're going to go. You can find yourself in the Air Force doing, software engineering. I'm luckily found myself in the intelligence force. Yeah, but I didn't know that before. Also, I haven't studied cybersecurity at all. Basically, the Army was my very first experience for cybersecurity, and we all know that in Israel the Army is the best school for cybersecurity, and I was really studied learning the basic cybersecurity one-on-one.
What is it in like a couple sentences? What is cybersecurity 101 taught in the Army?
So I think it also depends where, right? There are more offensive units, defensive units, units that are more, intelligence core or human intelligence and so on. In my area, it was around embedded devices, IoT, right? And so that's also where most of my things that I learned and so on was around. And you really start with the basic, like coding for embedded devices, attacking protocols that are related to embedded devices, how you defend them, how you attack them, and so on. There is really a full and complete syllabus around that pretty much today, I believe, for every unit. And it was fun. It was fun.
Awesome. What was your favorite thing about it?
That this is a lot, it's like a quiz that you always need to think how you, there is like a system and you need either to defend or attack it. In both cases, you need things like the attacker, right? And it's like a quiz. You just need to think how, like, there is a system, there are various security protocols. Now go find out how you're going to penetrate it. And you need to be, both creative and also work very in kind of methodology that will bring you somewhere, not just explore every, every route. So yeah, I love the part of it that it's, you really need to think out of the box and be creative. And there is always a new challenge. Like if you need to, to defend or attack any IoT device, it's always a new challenge. Mm-hmm. So
you were 6 years. How old were you when you started the Army?
22.
22. Cool. So most people when they start with, they're 18, right after high school. Yeah. Did you feel an age gap? 4 years isn't a lot, but kind of that stage in your life, I would hope you mature a lot.
Yeah, obviously, most of the people that served, along myself were younger than me. And it was fun, but at the same time, there, was also been an officer, and most of the officers, especially in the units, in the units where I served, many people stay for many years, and there are many people that are going in the same program like I went through. So, there were people from the age of 18 till 30 all over. So I blended quite well somewhere, in between.
You get to the Army, you get cybersecurity 101 training. How long does that last?
A few months, up to 6 months.
Oh, that's a long time.
Yeah, that's a long time.
And then from there, do they know what they were going to have you do after the 6 months, or did they wait till you finish, see where your strengths were, and then have you then work on things based on what you were strong at or good at?
No, basically your program, in first place is based on where you're going to go. So if they already knew, they knew already what unit I'm going to be, part of what team. So all the training, the basic training and everything was part
Did you have that visibility knowing, or kind of in hindsight, they kind of knew and you kind of...
It was part of the program.
Right.
It was part of the onboarding. This entire, period, it's not just studying, in a class or something. That's the full onboarding, and that you get to, get familiar with the context. So, get familiar with your team, get familiar with, the problems and get familiar with the project. And during that time, you also learn, the things that you need to know in order to to be operational in that team, right?
So after the half a year of Cyber 101, what did you do at the Army after?
Yes, I was working, being part of quite a few projects, cybersecurity projects, doing mostly, project or product management, as well as, started just by programming, coding, which I very quickly found out that it's not really what I like, just to sit in front of the computer and, do the coding part.
What do you like?
I think I like, mostly solving problems that involve technology, complex problems, and I like, to think.
Can you give an example, let's say people that aren't technologically savvy, but technologically curious?
Yeah, so just need to think of, you can think of any system or network that involves or has any, IoT devices as part of it, and you need to make sure that it is protected. And how you do that, and that means that you need to, map all the attack vectors to understand, how this network can be penetrated, where is the weakest link, where the low-hanging fruit that an attacker would look for, and start building a program to make sure that all of these attack vectors are well protected, and to make sure that they will remain protected even, with advanced in technology, or when, even if there will be some human mistake of exposing something.
How do you know it remains protected?
That's part of the, I guess that's part of the training, that if you start thinking like an attacker, and that's always, in the cyber world, something is protected if you cannot find any hole in it. That also means that cybersecurity is never 100% bulletproof. It just, you are protected to the extent of all the attack scenarios that you can actually, map and hopefully mitigate.
When you said you were there for 6 years, did you know it was going to be 6 years from the beginning?
Yeah,
or
that's part of the program.
That was part of the program.
That's part of the program.
Did you have the option to renew?
Yeah, and I didn't want to do that.
Why?
It was for me. I felt that it's enough. I had enough. The Army is a very structured place with, a hierarchy, very hierarchical place, and I felt that it's not for me. I want to do something different. So just decided not to renew.
Awesome. So from there, when did you decide, when did you start to look into what I'm going to do after the Army? How many months did you have left in the Army before you started thinking the day after you're done?
Actually, funny story, it happened a lot, not a lot, but a few months before even I got discharged. So one of my commanders before I got discharged was Michael, who actually is my co-founder in Cybellum. And we've been working for quite some years together. He discharged.
You met him in the Army?
Yeah. He was my commander in the unit, and so he got discharged a few months before, and he was like all into, let's start a business, let's start a startup, we need to build something together. And when I was closer to my discharge date, we started meeting more like regularly. And we're thinking, okay, let's start to do something together. And I can tell you, just the day that I got discharged, we pretty much started Cybellum. Not with the same idea, not with the same, concept.
Startup life.
Yeah, but it was like the startup life. We were sitting, we're spending like 8-10 hours a day at my rented apartment, not too far away from here, and we're just, in the ideation phase, just thinking of different ideas of what we should, what we should do.
Well, what was that like? What's an idea? How do you sit for 8 hours and think?
So it was, you don't really think, there was a lot of playing the PlayStation, FIFA involved in that.
Okay, yeah,
for
now
a
we're
couple
talking.
of hours. So that was obviously part of it, and drinking beer and just...
See? I knew it.
Yeah. Dreaming of what we should do. But actually, we were thinking about anything from dating apps to cybersecurity, and very quickly we understood that what we really know things about is cybersecurity. We spent the last 6 years, and Michael also almost 6 years, doing cybersecurity. We knew the latest and greatest and the state of the art of the technology in cybersecurity. And also we saw that there are many things that we are doing manually, or that we were doing manually during the military service. And there is enough technology today out there that can automate these things, and we understood that this is a big problem in the world. So yeah, so it was 8 hours of thinking, talking, just iterating between ideas, and playing the PlayStation. So.
All right, PlayStation.
Yeah.
And so you guys, so you're starting your thinking, you're trying to come up with ideas, you're hanging out, and you were determined. My question is, like, how did your relationship from the Army when he was your commander, and you were talking about there's far more hierarchy than you like, or indefinite, 6 years of hierarchy is enough. How was that hierarchy removed once you went to go literally found the cybersecurity startup with your commander?
Yeah, so,
how did the hierarchy go away? Did it go away? What's that relationship like now in the private sector?
Yeah, so it went away very, very quickly. You just decided that, we're going to be equal partners. Just split the work between us, doing everything, or together or split it, but just equal partners, no hierarchy between us. Even before, we are friends. So yeah, so this just went away very, very quickly the first day that we started working on it. So.
How much did you guys decide? I mean, obviously you had a strong relationship in the Army, do with the fact that I know you really know your shit, you know your shit, or as opposed to the friendship. What was the motivating factor? Like, let's do something entrepreneurial with a friend, or do something entrepreneurial because, hey, you really know your stuff, you were thinking of him, he's thinking of you?
Yes, I think it's a combination. It's a combination of, first of all, trust, that I know him on the personal level, he knew me on the personal level. We knew that we can trust each other, that we both of us are hardworking people. We really want to build something big together. So obviously trust and personality was the biggest part of that. At the same time, we also, I knew he's a professional in what he is doing. He was really, leading things. He's an expert in cybersecurity, in vulnerability detection, and so on. And I hope he also thought the same about myself.
Let's assume.
Yeah, let's assume that. And yeah, so that's, I think, both, the trust that that we can build something together, that we already knew how to work together, that there is no ego between us, that we just, just really focused on building something big and nice.
So you're sitting around, you're playing PlayStation, you're eating pizza, drinking beer, living the good life with your friend, thinking, hey, we're going to start something, eventually we're going to grow up. What was the idea that made you decide to put down the PlayStation and actually do some work?
So one of the things that really helped us very early on is that we signed to some accelerator. It was an accelerator in Beersheba, in the Negev, that was focused on cybersecurity. And there was just I think there were just 2 rounds of it, and then it was closed. But long story short, it really helped us, from 2 engineers to shape and help us understand the business part of starting a business.
Well, what was the idea that you had? Because you go to an accelerator with at least some idea you're trying to build, right?
Yes.
An accelerator helps you do that.
Correct, but we were very early on with just some, just some initial idea. We haven't ended up even the accelerator with the same idea. And because we were really the first round of this accelerator, so they just accepted us. I don't know. And the idea was just, stopping attacks from email attachments, something completely different of what we're doing today. We had some cool technology to start with, and we were very knowledgeable in cybersecurity.
Wait, what do you mean you had some cool? Like you guys developed this on your own?
No, we had the idea, just
the
an idea.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, everything and.
Right
now it's just an idea, and that's back then. That was, I think, the formula to start a startup in the cybersecurity space. Because look, we were building an enterprise, building an enterprise level solution, and you cannot really build something meaningful, or think of customers, or building even a beta product with just 2 guys sitting in the garage. It's not, it's not an app, it's not a consumer solution or something like that. It's an enterprise grade solution. So yeah, so our playbook was just to start with an idea and to start this accelerator with this idea. Again, completely different from what we are ended up this accelerator with or even doing today. But back to this, to this program, it really helped us to understand what is even, how you approach investors, what is a business plan, what is a term sheet that you eventually will get from investors, what we should aim for in terms of funding round, how we map VCs, how we do, a presentation to investors and so on. And this was our very early footprint in the business world of startups and how to start a startup. Together with many, books.
Wait, so hold on. How do you get into the accelerator? Everyone would say ideas are like assholes. Everyone has one. So how do you get into the accelerator?
There was some, committee that they interviewed you, and we, submitted an application, a bit of background about us, that we were both, I think something that really helped us back then, that we were both 100% committed to that, not working in anything else.
Okay, that's interesting. That's good for people to know.
Yeah.
That accelerator is one thing they're looking for, is they want to make sure you focus.
Yeah. Obviously, they want to know that you are all in before, and that you have a real skin in the game and not just doing something, just a gig on the side and, working with them. So, and I guess, our interview went pretty well. We were cybersecurity experts at the time, so we obviously knew what we were talking about, and probably when we described the idea or the solution, it was very convincing because we were very in the details. I guess that's it.
Awesome. So you're in how long are you at the accelerator for?
Just about 3 months.
Oh wow, short.
Yeah. At the end of it, we already had a term sheet, and just about a month after the accelerator finished, we already, I think, started the company and signed the first, the first funding round.
What, did they just give out money like that?
The
You just go to accelerator for 3 months.
No, and then
say, I have an idea. I'm committed. I'm doing this full time for 3 months.
Yeah.
You walk out and you get funding. How's this work?
No, I think we did something right. At the end of the accelerator, really, we met with many mentors. That's something that really helped.
That were part of the accelerator.
That were part of the accelerator.
What's the name of the accelerator?
It was InnoNegev.
InnoNegev.
Yeah, it doesn't exist anymore. So.
After you, they were like,
yeah,
we're done. Lessons learned.
We're too much for it. And but seriously, yeah. So we probably, we did a couple of things right during that time. Really, identified a real problem during that time. We met with a lot of potential customers and have very positive feedback of of the technology that we had back then. Then we mapped many of the
This all happened before funding.
Before funding.
Okay,
yeah, before funding. We worked really hard during this, during that period. It was 3 months or so, 3-4 months altogether that it was, not enough PlayStation playing, but iterating on the idea, changing our pitch almost after every meeting and changing.
That's how to do it. Love that.
Always. Yeah.
The attention to detail.
Yeah. You pretty much, the way I like to do that is was pretty much like every question or tough question that we were getting during, some meeting, we're incorporating that into the pitch,
Amazing.
into the presentation for the next meeting. So pretty much, eliminating all the obstacles and try to tick all the box of investors. And and eventually we met quite a few investors during this short period of time.
How many?
A few dozens, probably. Some of them angel investors.
How long are these meetings?
The good ones, an hour.
The bad ones?
Yeah, usually after 30 minutes you understand. 20, 30 minutes you understand. It's
who understands faster, you or them?
Usually you see that investors don't like to say no. Obviously, they'll never say no.
Why?
Because they always like
they want to leave the door open, or they don't want to feel like they want you to feel rejected.
No, I don't think they're really too much care about my feelings.
Yeah, that was my assumption.
Yeah, it's basically to live there, just to have the option. Maybe they're missing out on something. Maybe they will see, tier 1 VC will invest in you in a month later, and they just want to have the option to, to follow on that. And
they take meetings with anyone basically just to plant those seeds. So then if there's an opportunity to circle back around?
No, I don't think they take meetings. It's relatively hard to get meetings with the good investors, with busy investors. And usually you need a good introduction, a warm introduction from someone that either you know or someone that believes in the technology. And for us, it's kind of a snowball effect. You start with one investor, someone, you get a good meeting and they say, before I invest, meet a couple of my friends, let's see what they think, and so on. So this is how it's actually started. So met with a few, they introduced us to a few others. We met with a few mentors. They introduced us to their, to their ecosystem or to their network. And eventually we ended up with 3 term sheets, and we choose one of them, which actually wasn't the most attractive from financial perspective, but we felt very good with the partner on the other side.
Who's the partner?
So it was with Bloomberg Capital, and the partner was Alon Lifshitz. He's now in another VC. And he really believed in us very early on. He and also some other folks from the VC. Also Liron is Realant. She also has another VC now. Together with Daniel, Meron Capital, they were the very first investors that worked with us, helped us understand, how to start a company, introduced us, explained us, that we need to start to do board meetings, how to manage board meetings.
They teach you. It's almost like you went to school again.
Yeah, almost.
What
business
would you,
school.
for VCs watching, what advice would you give them to how they can work with or guide early stage Israeli startups? Let's say like you, in hindsight or from your experience, clearly talking about these great partners. But if for others that weren't, you said you chose them even though they didn't give the best financial deal.
Correct.
Then maybe those other VCs that are watching could then be more supportive, help all those Israeli tech companies. What would you recommend to them?
So honestly, I see today that also back then, VCs are really expecting you to know everything. They expect you that if you come to raise money, they expect that you know how to run a board meeting, they expected you to know how to, to build a budget, to build a business plan, sell your product to customers, even if you haven't done it ever before. And looking at it today, I think they're right. You're raising money, so you need to know to do this, and they don't need to be the one that are teaching you to do any of that. They should expect from you, to learn it, and that's part of the, to be an entrepreneur. You need to learn as you go, all these kind of things, and I think we learned it just because, we had to do that. We had to run our first board meeting. We had to submit a business plan. We had to build a budget. Yeah, there is plenty of data, about it online. There are so many mentors to help you do that. Big firms, big VCs today have, all this support that they can give you from HR to marketing and so on. But at the end of the day, and that's another part that I learned from VCs, all VCs are saying that they are value-added VCs, right? They can add you value, they can introduce you to customers, they can do blah, blah, blah. At the end of the day, they can give you advice, they can consult, they're there to consult with you, but it's your company.
Right, the value add isn't as much as they say.
Yeah, and also it's not.
Do you think that's just a way to say, hey, I want to give you less money and take more equity, so I'm going to give you value instead?
I don't know. I think it's also maybe, when they're competing on good deals.
Right, when you're competing, what's the X factor if it's a commodity and then money is a commodity?
Yeah.
You need to have some value add or some X factor, and obviously that was the difference for you choosing your VC. Yeah. How much did you raise?
The seed round was about $1.8 million.
And when was this? What year?
2016. Oh
wow, that's a long time ago. That's a good seed then. How seeds like?
Yeah, it was back then. It was a nice seed.
Huge seed.
Back then, yeah. Today it's like pre-seed. It's like friends and family today. Yeah, it's nothing. You can just.
It hasn't before inflation.
Yeah.
So then, walk us through. What did you do with that 1.6 mil? How did you use it to grow? And then take us through. Did you raise other money before you got acquired?
Yeah. So.
Spoiler alert: they were acquired.
Yeah. So we raised 1.8 million in this seed round. We built basically, an MVP product, and started to gain some traction with customers. And after about 18 months, almost 18 months, or a bit less, between like 12, 14 months, we understand that we are completely in the wrong direction. Meaning that
But you were selling it, but you knew you were in the wrong direction.
Like, we understood that we are in a very, it's called the red ocean.
Yeah, got it.
We were building this IT security, email security solution, and we saw that there are so many competitors in that area. So our technology was cool, but it wasn't 10x better than whatever was out there back then. And we couldn't, save tons of money or give another, 10x value to customers.
Commoditized almost.
Yeah. And so we understood that we either, can build a small business in this area and keep competing on pricing with other, with other companies that were so many of them around the globe, or we need to pivot, because otherwise we are wasting our time, which was the most precious thing for us, right?
Amen.
And we decided to pivot. So after about 14 months, we took the company to completely another direction. Just stop what we were doing back then. We're kind of back to the drawing board with a few principles and started the company from scratch.
What did your investors think of that? Did it come from them, or?
No, it didn't come from them.
Did you have to get their approval to make that? I'm assuming something that radical, you need the board involved.
Yeah. And actually, we got their approval pretty late in the process, because I knew that that they are very supportive, and I want to come to them when I have already something that is mature enough to share, and not just come and say, hey guys, this direction that I sold to you and convinced you is wrong. That I was selling, to you for the last 12 months. I don't think we can build a great business out of that. So I preferred, we preferred to first analyze the market, understand where we want to go from here, figure out if the money that we have is going to be enough for us to take the company to a new direction before we need to raise another round, and then come with it to the investors. So that's basically what we did. So yeah, and it was a tough period. It was a tough period. Also, you need to tell all the employees. We were about 10 people back then.
That everything you worked on, we're throwing out, we're starting over.
Yeah, exactly. The last 12 months that we invested so much into the product, so many hours.
Could you sell that product or that IP to a competitor then? This is Red Ocean, a lot of people?
So, no, not really. We weren't even focused on that. We were focused on, where we are going from here and how we can leverage part of this technology or part of this code base to our new direction. That was also one of the factors in our decision making, one of the criteria in our decision making process of what is going to be our next direction, that we really wanted to leverage some of the IP that we created. And then again, we met with so many people. We met one of the mentors that we had from the early days of the accelerator, Mr. Ronen Lago. Back then he worked in Daimler, Mercedes. He was their head of product security. And part of our new discovery process, we also met with him and asked him, okay, what are your challenges today in Mercedes? As the head of product security, what cybersecurity challenges you're encountering during your in your role? And that was when he opened up to us, what are the cybersecurity challenges in the automotive space. It was late 2017, and we saw how complex the cybersecurity, how advanced vehicles are becoming in terms of software, software-defined vehicles and so on, and at the same time, or on the other hand, how complex is the supply chain in the automotive business, and what unique cybersecurity challenges it introduced into modern vehicles, just because most of the parts in the vehicle are not built by the car manufacturer. So we understood, okay, maybe that's an angle we should double down on, and that's basically how we started the new Cybellum.
Awesome. And what year was that?
Late 2017. From
there, you pivoted, starting to secure cars, or obviously their third party or their suppliers providing things to their cars to ensure that they're secure. And there's obviously going to be a growing market, especially with full self-driving is basically here.
Yeah.
It's not rolled out, but it's working. You see it happening over in the States, Tesla especially doing it. Where do you think how did you get to a point that made you attractive to be acquired? We'll tell people who you got acquired by in a moment.
Yeah, so, really we were focused on growing the business. We were, attracting customers, and we were very focused on building the technology and the product. I think around 2021, when LG approached us for the first time, we were already a dominant player in the automotive cybersecurity market. We had very nice logos and customers, again, from around the globe that were using Cybellum to protect their products, basically their vehicles, and to manage the risk of their vehicles. So when LG approached us, and they had their own strategy about cybersecurity. By the way, not many knows, but LG are one of the biggest automotive suppliers.
Really? I did not know that.
Yeah. So
what, they just make the TV screens?
Yeah.
Which is in every car now.
Yeah. Not only, but they have so many systems. Like everyone
Like
knows LG, the telematics units. So they are number
What's a
one
telematics
in the
unit?
Telematics are basically sending on the telemetry data from the vehicle, collecting it back to the cloud, to the OEM, and so on. They are now also getting into the ADAS system, which is basically the advanced driving assistant systems, and of course the infotainment, which are the screens that we're seeing. But the screens, I'm not talking only about the hardware part of that, but also all the software that is behind that is connected to all the sensors of the vehicles and so on. So again, we all know LG for the consumer goods, for the televisions, for all the things, but they are one of the biggest players LG have so many subsidiaries. They're basically a huge conglomerate. They're active in pretty much every place. Automotive business is one of their fastest growing business in the entire group.
So let's talk about LG's Korean.
Yeah.
How do they find you? Like, how did that happen?
Yeah, so LG hired...
It's very abnormal.
Yeah.
For an Israeli tech scene to be...
Correct. We're the first acquisition of LG actually in Israel.
Were you the first Korean acquisition?
Korean? No, I think Samsung probably acquired a few companies in Israel before. But the first acquisition of LG in Israel, the first acquisition in cyber for LG.
LG.
Yeah. Obviously not the first cyber acquisition in Israel. So LG, took a consulting company. These huge conglomerates, they like to work with consulting companies, spend money on consulting firms to do them, analysis of the market, understand where the market is growing, what are the, growth potential in what areas, and so on. So they hired this consultancy firm that did them market analysis. And one of the obvious areas that they analyze that the market is going to grow in is cybersecurity, just because it's going to be a software-defined vehicle. With software comes security risk, and to be a dominant player in the modern vehicle area. So you also need to be part and to play in the cybersecurity space. So obviously this was a global firm that did an analysis for LG, and part of players that they analyzed from the States, Europe, in Germany there were a few players, and obviously in Israel we were shortlisted to companies that LG want to explore investment opportunities or acquisition, and that's basically how LG got to us.
They weren't here on the ground, were they?
No.
Did they do a Google search?
No, in
cybersecurity, automotive, and they found it on page 5.
I hope on page 1.
I know. Full disclosure, we do your SEO.
Yeah. So if we're on page 5, that's really bad. But what was the question again?
I don't understand. How do they find you? Because they don't have a presence here, at least then.
No.
They didn't have scouts or anything.
No. And to make it even more complicated, it was just during COVID. It was COVID days. So we even haven't met with them until very late in the acquisition process. So everything was, Zoom calls and so on. Now, how they met? Yeah, they were just using this global consultancy firm that was doing that they have their branches pretty much everywhere. Also a
What
branch
firm
in
is
Tel
this?
Aviv. I'm not sure I can
Respect.
disclose.
Oh, you can't?
No, but
I'd like to give them a shout out. It's obviously doing
one
something.
of the big ones.
Most consulting firms are full of shit, so it's nice to see one that actually did something.
Yeah, they are one of the good ones. Yeah, and they found us among other companies, introduced us to LG, and then we were doing through this entire process of presenting them the technology, presenting them the product, and so on. And also, a fun story here is that it haven't started as acquisition. The first phase, it was all around LG want to invest in a company. And only, I think, after 6 months of doing this intensive due diligence we were just around, wanted to raise our B round, and were exploring, different potential investors, and LG was one of them. And very late in the process, when we actually got for the first time to travel to Korea to meet the guys face to face, and we were thinking that we're gonna close this investment, they come up and said, "Hey guys, we love the technology, we love what you have built here, and we want to own the company. We want to see how you're going to be part of the LG family to acquire you."
And I'm sure it's a huge compliment, but you're like, what the hell's the LG family? Because there's no one else is here in Israel. It's like, they're not family. I don't even know them.
yeah. But when you visit Korea and you see the size of LG there.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And
like
then you understand.
City.
Yeah, just in our in the vehicle solution company, which is one subsidiary of huge LG, there are 16,000 people. So it's a big company. It's a big company, obviously public. All of the companies under the LG umbrella are public companies. So
awesome. So what's it been like culturally for you and for them? Because I mean, Korean and Israeli cultures aren't very similar.
Are the complete opposite.
What do you think is more opposite, Japanese or Korean to Israeli culture? I think it's Japanese, personally.
Yeah, probably Japanese.
I haven't been to either of the countries, but I'm very familiar with the culture.
Yeah, I just came back from a tour in Korea and Japan, and yeah, Japanese are probably a bit more different, but yeah, Korean are more Western to some degree.
Right.
But still very different from Cybellum, for example.
So how did that work?
It is challenging. I'll tell you that the first 6 months were extremely challenging.
Why?
We really didn't know how to work together.
Did you regret it? You're like, maybe this was a mistake? At one point, you're like, this is such a pain in the butt. They're just so culturally, obviously,
Yeah. Culturally, it's tough, but we learned so much from this process. We learned how to work with a huge company, and obviously, sometimes we are not happy about the Korean corporate way of doing things, but they are doing something right? They managed to build a huge company that is successful in so many areas. So I guess at the end of the day, something that I understood is that I will never change, or we will never change LG. And the way that, if we really want to keep working together, means that we need to change.
Right.
And we changed a lot.
How did you change? A lot. What was one or two biggest adaptations that you had to do in order to be able to communicate?
Just a small example, like board meetings, right? So today, a good thing that happened is that we remained a fully independent subsidiary. We have our own reporting structure and so on, like we had before, and we just have a board with a few board members from LG. But to understand a board meeting, unlike board meetings that we had before with the financial investors, where we really brought up, things to debate about or to consult about, or to understand the best solution. We have our opinion. LG, the investors have their opinion, and eventually you find the best solution. Board meetings in LG are different. There are no discussions. All discussions are happening long before the board meeting. The board meeting are basically just the ceremony, the formal ceremony that you have already everything that you agreed on, and you just need the formal agreement. The other very interesting term that I learned in LG, and this is the magic word. The magic word in LG, it's consensus. Every decision must be...
In Israel, that's not how it works.
No,
There's no
it's never...
do whatever you want,
Yeah.
figure it out later.
Yeah, yeah. And in LG, it's all about consensus. So yeah, it's interesting, to start to operate in a company in that way. That you first need to get a consensus with the LG team about various items, and only then you can operate. So,
so if they're so little involved and you're so independent, what was the value of them acquiring you? Is that you kind of have control over certain things, you want to make changes to the product to introduce into their software that they're putting in automotives?
So first of all, LG are huge customer today of Cybellum. All of their product security team is based on the Cybellum product, and also we support tons of services to LG, and we improved significantly all their cybersecurity across all their LG products. And all their processes now and procedures of cybersecurity are so mature compared to what they have before the acquisition. And we also know today for a fact that OEMs, meaning their customers, are really noticing that and saying like how advanced the cybersecurity of LG compared to the other players in the market. The other part is that based on the LG kind of strategy of acquisitions is they give first of all to companies to run on their own for about 5 to 7 years, and only if after that it's significant enough for the business of LG, then they kind of incorporate it into the LG umbrella. They have their process to do that and so on, but they first want to give the companies to operate on their own. For us, one of the advantages, obviously, we are selling in very traditional markets, and having LG, as our mother company and the financial backup of LG, and not being more in that kind of rat race of startups to raise the next funding round, helps us a lot to really focus on the technology, focus on the product, and build the company, build the business.
Now you're fully incorporated, but not. I mean, you're 100% LG, but you're totally a separate identity, and you've adapted to them. Where do you think things are going now from here, right? After you're acquired, it's not like raising more money, there's not more acquisition. Does the work get boring? Where do you see Cybellum going here into the future?
Not boring for sure. We are growing. We grew significantly since the acquisition. Like we multiple the company like threefold since the
revenue or employees?
Both. Both. Like we were acquired, we were like 30 people something. Today we are almost 100, 90 something across the globe. Yeah, and we are also entered new verticals. So we started only as automotive, and we moved now we added also medical devices. And in general, we expanded our offering also significantly since the acquisition. And today, Cybellum is on the mission to help manufacturers in mission critical industries to protect their devices. And we're doing that by really redefining the entire product security practice in organizations. So today, companies are using us to protect their products and to to protect the products, meet regulations throughout the entire product lifecycle. You can imagine, that products in those industries like medical devices, automotive, energy industry are their life cycle since the very early days of design concept of product through development and post-production. It can be like 15-20 years to think of how many years a vehicle is running on the road, or an MRI or CT machine is being used in hospitals, and take into consideration the development time of those products. So you can understand that the product life cycle is a complex and long process, and there is many elements of cybersecurity that need to be implemented across this process, and this is it's something that we understand that this is a missing part. This is a really missing part in the manufacturer's kind of product ecosystem. So they have the quality management system for product. They have the ERP system or PLM system, product lifecycle management systems that are dedicated to product. But when it comes to cybersecurity, they try to to adopt IT security solutions and so on, which are not really adjustable to embedded devices, to products, to things that are physical. And that's what basically what we've built in Cybellum. We built a complete platform that help manufacturers to manage the risk of their products throughout the entire product lifecycle, from design through development to post-production. And we're doing that using a very unique technology. It's called digital twins, where we create a digital replica of products, and a digital replica of a product that's running in the cloud, and all the assessments, all their risk analysis, the vulnerability management, and so on is done on this replica. It saves tons of time, tons of manual labor for manufacturers to do that with the physical product. So
a lot of excited ahead, and I think as cars are becoming more and more technologically advanced and more on the cloud, and all software updates are happening on cars now regularly, I think we'll be seeing and hearing more of Cybellum and LG in cars.
Yeah.
Any people want to stay up to date with Cybellum? Anywhere we should leave them?
Obviously, our LinkedIn channel.
Awesome. We'll drop all of the sources down in the description for Slava and also for Cybellum. Anything else you want to share with the audience before we go?
No, just that, obviously our area is that it's software-defined everything, right? It's software-defined vehicles, software-defined medical devices, and the risks, the cybersecurity risks in those areas are enormous. And we're building something really exciting in Cybellum and helping, to secure fundamentally all the products that we rely on our day-to-day. So that's exciting.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.